preservation.
Here's what you begin to notice about Pont Savan. The presence everywhere of twisted, rusting pieces of metal in curious shapes. Used as support structures, building materials, as fencing, as decoration. Part of the American legacy, what we left behind. The remnants of millions of tons of bombs dropped on this country, this area in particular, between 1964 and 1973. In the 1950s and 60s, though a primitive and neutral kingdom ruled by a procession of feuding princes, it was Laos's great misfortune to have Vietnam as a neighbor. Though never at any time at war with Laos, and though technically and legally no such thing was occurring, the U.S. dropped more bombs on this relatively tiny neutral country than we dropped on Germany and Japan in all of World War II. The equivalent of a bombing run every 9 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 10 years. This was part of the largest covert military operation in history. Tactical airstrikes against local communist forces and increasingly against North Vietnamese forces could be called in by CIA officers operating in the mountains. In the air, pilots returning from missions in North Vietnam were encouraged to dump their leftovers on Laos on their way home. On the ground, these same officers trained and armed an infantry of over 100,000 men, most of them recruited from hill tribes like the Hmong. Needless to say, things did not turn out well in this sideshow struggle. Few parts of the country were left untouched by the war, creating the need for organizations like this one, UXO Lao. UXO stands for unexploded ordnance, and it's the task of this group to detect, clear, and detonate the munitions left scattered throughout Laos. Today I'm following Edwin, the technical advisor of UXO Lao, as he coordinates a field clearance team.
And so what happens if someone finds one bomblet, for instance? Does that give you a good indication there's probably more in the area?
Yes, especially the cluster munitions that we find.
Right, and that would be one of these things.
Yeah. In excess of 266 million of these were dropped.
Right.
What is estimated is 30% of these failed to explode. So that would leave you about 78 million lying in the ground here in Laos. 78
million of these things still strewn around the country over 30 years later.
Yes. Over the past 10 years, we've cleared about 400,000 of those.
That may sound like a lot, but that's just 1/2 of 1% of what's believed to be littered through the fields, hills, and mountains around here. There are also, of course, still live rocket-propelled grenades, mortar shells, mines, and larger munitions from all parties involved in the conflict.
What usually detonates these with just a civilian 30 years later? How does that usually happen?
People or farmers would hit those cluster munitions with a shovel, and then it will go off.
In a normal course of farming, you're cook off a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
The detection process is meticulous and slow, with small crews tracing back and forth across fields, marking with red flags the areas of concern for a follow-up team member to inspect further. A second, more sensitive metal detection device is brought in, and a hole is slowly dug to expose the ordnance. And it's like this: one hole and one tiny bomblet at a time, field after field, town after town, across the entire country.
cooked off a lot of old ordnance.
Very big explosion. Congratulations. Destroyed some of things that your countrymen left behind.
It should surprise no one that with this much explosive seeded throughout the landscape, people are still dying. People who didn't fight in the war, don't remember the war, in some cases weren't even alive when it happened. Over 100 of them a year are killed, and many, many more are seriously injured. Like this man, Puvian, lost an arm and a leg to an unexploded bomb he hit while doing house repairs. He and his wife Wema live here in the small village of Tonmi Sai.
Nice.
This is a very common Lao meal, very simple.
Freshwater fish,
Yes,
bamboo shoot.
bamboo shoot, you have some steamed vegetable. This is a chili paste. And this is a vegetable soup. You have some kind of cabbage and short beans.
Right. Well, I like these.
Eating meat or fish is not an everyday feature of the meal in this village, but we are honored guests. Wema does her very best with a whole fried fish and vegetables gathered from their garden.
How old is he? Does he even remember the planes? He was a child.
He doesn't remember.
Doesn't remember. All these years later, people who had nothing to do with the conflict, no memory of it, weren't alive, are still paying this terrible price.
For him, it's losing everything because he's the head of the family, feeding the family. So after losing his arms and his legs, it's a great disaster for his life.
Is he angry?
อ้ายใจให้บ่เป็นถาม
หรือว่าตนเจ็บมาแล้วหรือว่ายังบ่ทันเจ็บ
He said that before the accident he was a great person with an open mind and open heart. And then his mind and his heart changed. He was very, very angry. I think so it's a little bit of this feeling where he's alone and the only friends he have is his family.
Well, he has a beautiful family.
แล้วครอบครัวไอ้โชคดีหลายที่มีครอบครัวนั่นนี่
เคยไปต่างแข่งหรือต่างประเทศ
He's asking you a question.
No.
He wants to know if you are afraid of seeing the reality.
Afraid? No, it hurts, but I think that's appropriate. It should. I think every American should see the results of war. It's not a movie. I think it's the least I can do is to see the world with open eyes.
You'll notice that, in general, I'm not myself in this episode. Where's the snark, the attitude? Well, what do you say to this? What do you talk about with a guy who lost his arm, his leg, his self-image, his livelihood, his pride to a bomb that your country dropped over 30 years ago? Sorry about the limbs, past the fish? I honestly don't know.
กินข้าวสามัคคีน้ำอีกนี่
เอาเลยโยอิ่มเลย He say please eat กินข้าวสามัคคี In Lao it means we eat together. Don't be shy.
This is something I've seen a fair amount of over time. Acts of kindness and generosity from strangers who have no reason at all to be nice to me. It frankly kicks the hell out of me.
No reservations.
This is where the local people have their breakfast.
Want to have some?
You can taste.
Yeah, let's have a bowl.
Have a sit.
This is kaupia, a steaming bowl of goodness with chicken, duck, and pork.
Yes, for you.
Oh yeah, come on, that looks pretty.
If you like sweet, you put some sugar. But this is ginger paste. Chili paste. This is salt. Fish sauce.
Oh yeah, I like fish sauce.
You have some lemon, pepper.
A lot of condiments, a lot of stuff on the side.
A lot of, yes.
The noodles are a Vietnamese thing, but the condiments, pure Lao.
This is the perfect breakfast for me.
แซ่บหลายถามแล้วไหม Is it good? She's asking you.
Very, very good. Supply.
แซ่บหลาย
A close cousin to Vietnamese pho, spicy broth with noodles for breakfast, it's one of my favorite things about Southeast Asia.
So happy.
For the morning, it wakes you up.
Yeah. No reservation.